I'm in like the blackberry, raspberry sort of world.
Yeah.
Yeah?
No. Well, no.
Welcome to In the Test Kitchen. I am Dan Souza, head of content here at America's Test Kitchen, and I am joined today by Lon Lamb, deputy food editor for Cooks Illustrated. Lon, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So I'm always excited to talk to you. I love talking to you on the podcast here, where we go deep into what's happening in the test kitchen, bring on some amazing guests. I want to start with my morning commute, though.
Okay.
So I was driving in today, and I love to drive a manual transmission. So like a 6-speed or a 5-speed. And so I was driving this morning doing that and thinking about the fact that like nowadays, automatic transmissions are like really, really good and way better than like I can shift a car. They're faster, they're more efficient. And it got me thinking about the kitchen because I do it, it doesn't really make sense why I have a manual transmission, right? It's like annoying in traffic and like it can be a lot more fun in different ways, but I just love the simple act of moving the shifter through the gears so much that I do it that way. Even though I know there are better ways to do it using machinery. And so I was thinking about you and I was like, what does Lon in the kitchen do by hand, do manually, even though she has access to all of this equipment in the test kitchen? It can probably do it faster and in some ways even better than you. What do you still do manually?
Oh, boy. What do I do manually? I don't like juicers. I prefer a fork.
Really?
Yeah.
That is not what I expected you to say.
No, we have all sorts of juicers. Winners come and go, and they're all lovely. I don't use any of them. I just grab a fork and it's perfect.
So you do this at home and here in the test kitchen. And walk me through, maybe not everyone uses a fork to juice.
It is like you just cut your lemon, orange, whatever in half, hold one half, stab it a bunch of times with your fork.
Okay, you stab, so the cut side, you stab into the fleshy part.
Into the segments and like kind of couple little twists. And then while the fork is still in there, you just squeeze and it's so easy and fast, and it produces a ton of juice. I didn't have to remember to pick up a juicer. There's always a fork around. It's great.
And it's great. And so you get like a real joy out of that.
Yeah. There's something very visceral that isn't there with like the little presses.
And so at home, do you have a juicer that's just like lonely sitting in the drawer that never comes out, or you don't even have one in there?
You know, somebody gave me this little bird-looking thing once that I think is supposed to be a juicer, but I have no idea what happened to it.
I really love that. That's not what I expected. I thought you would say, because I've seen you do this many, many times, is sharpening your knives by hand.
Yeah. But I kind of think I do it better than some of the machines.
Okay, that's fair. And that makes sense to me. But I think it's one of those things that in the test kitchen, I see you towards the end of the day, in the same way that like you'd be in a restaurant, you pull it out, you have your sort of process for it, and you're methodically sharpening. And your knives are like insanely sharp every single day. I've borrowed them before, so I know. But I thought that was it because it's like that sort of process. But now I know that it's jamming a fork into a lemon.
Can I confess something?
Yeah, please.
If you see me sharpening a knife, it's probably because I need to chill out. I don't know what it is that's going on, but my brain is circling a little bit. Emotions are a little high. And there is something about that repetitive motion that requires a ton of focus so you don't hurt yourself and you don't hurt your knife that really like calms me down. So
wow, that's really interesting. Okay, so I'll know two things when I see you sharpening. I will know that you have probably been freaking out before that and that I shouldn't go bother you because you're calming down right now.
Yeah, also I've got a pile of sharp knives in front of me.
That's the ultimate reason not to go bother you. Wow, I love that. So today in the test kitchen, I didn't see you sharpening a knife, so it seemed like it was probably a pretty good day. I did see you eating a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot of different tastings.
Yeah.
What was going on there?
The kitchen was pretty full today, and it kind of, there was one point where I was like, people just have to stop. I need just an hour to digest.
You needed a digestion break.
Yeah, but I was at one tasting that kind of showed off exactly what it's like to work here. Like the Cooks Illustrated team was carefully writing down exactly how lacinato kale leaves taste, lacinato kale stems taste, and how they were different from curly kale. And like little pieces of paper, pens, everyone's heads were down like they were taking a test. and like there's like a whoop in the background, and it's Brian and Morgan and the Cook's Country team pulling burritos bigger than my head out of an oven.
So there's kale and massive burritos
Yeah.
all at the same time. It's hard to choose between those two, huh?
Is it?
It's an easy decision in my mind. Lacinato kale in my mind is so much better than curly leaf.
I thought I would like it, but curly leaf has this kind of delicate fruitiness to it that it's not as minerally and earthy. It was pretty nice. Kind of tough though.
Yeah.
And the stems are
Delicate
super tough.
fruitiness to curly leaf kale. You make it sound really good, but I've had it. I don't know.
You should have been at today's tasting.
I should have. You should have saved me some.
I'm going to drop some off for you.
You are? Okay. Well, I will look forward to that. But we can't talk about kale all day because we have a wonderful guest here. Aran Goyoaga is a 3 times James Beard nominated cookbook author. She's a fabulous next level gluten-free baker, and she's visiting us from Seattle. Let's bring her on. Aran, welcome to the Test Kitchen.
Thank you for having me.
It is so exciting to have you here. Lana and I have about 1 million questions for you. But before we pepper you with those, we're going to start with a tradition we have on the show, which is I choose a tea that I think matches up to my guest in some way. We get to check it out. We get to taste it. I love tea. And so what I've chosen today for you is a white tea. So this is called Moonlight White. It's from Yunnan, China. And white teas are really interesting. They are the least processed of all of the teas. Basically, they pick the tea leaves off the plant, let them wither and dry, and that's it. So they're very, very unprocessed. And you get gorgeous flavors of hay and straw and a lot of really nice baking spice kind of orange and almond that I like a lot. But that is not actually why I chose it, that it has sort of baking spices in there. I chose it because of that sort of unprocessed nature. When I see your Instagram, when I see the photography in your cookbook, there is a sort of, it looks gorgeous, but it looks like it just happened naturally. Like you put food down and took a photo of it and it just happens to be beautiful. So there's a sort of, not too much work was like done to it and it just happens to look that way. So anyway, I'm gonna pour this.
That's so nice. Oh my goodness.
Well, so I'm gonna pour this tea and see what we think of it. I have these beautiful little cups here. I'm gonna pour a little bit into this glass bowl so we can take a look at the color.
It's kind of peachy, like stone fruity.
Yeah, it really is. Wow. Let's give it a taste. I love it. So the peachy nose doesn't really come through when I drink it. I get much more of that hay, sort of grass lightness, a little bit of almond for me.
How did you get into tea?
I was in culinary school and I was in upstate New York and I was interested in tea. I had tasted a couple that I really enjoyed, but didn't know that much about it. And there was a guy named Sebastian Beckwith who had started a company called In Pursuit of Tea. And he had his whole little business was in this abandoned train station in rural Connecticut. And I somehow knew about him. I had like bought some tea from his company before. And I was young and the kind of, way you can just be like, email and be like, hey, I want to learn about tea. Can I come visit? So annoying, but it also like helps you out when you're younger to like experience things. And Sebastian was like, come on by. And he was living in the top of the train station. And his business was in the bottom, which was basically just huge bags of tea that he had bought from small family farms across Asia. And he had this beautiful tea table, and he brewed like 12 different teas for me that day, and it blew my mind. Tea is really fascinating in that, it's all comes from basically one plant, and how you process it gives you white tea, green tea, oolong, black tea, this whole range. And I just found that so fascinating that like that little bit of human intervention can give you this incredible array. And so I've been sort of geeking out on it for a long time now.
That's fascinating. I have to say, I am not a tea connoisseur.
No.
I grew up in Spain, and definitely coffee is what we indulge in. So this was really beautiful.
Well, so
lesson.
So you grew up in Spain, but you also live in Seattle, which is like coffee.
Yes.
So do you think, does this convert you at all? Are you going to be a little bit more of a tea
Yes,
drinker?
I am gonna come to you for advice.
Good.
Actually.
Let's do the thing. I'll brew like 12 for you and see if I can.
Yeah, I would
convert
love
you.
that.
Yeah. But I want to start back in Spain. You have such an interesting journey that you've sort of taken to come to the Test Kitchen today. You grew up in the Basque Country, which I feel like is considered one of the preeminent culinary kind of hearts of the entire world. And you come from a family that had a pastry shop. Can you talk a little bit about like what that was like, and then how you ended up in Seattle?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a long journey, but so my grandparents, my mom's maternal grandparents, had a pastry shop that they opened in 1949, and it's still in our family. Now my cousins work there. It's not gluten-free. So I grew up across the street from it. And I know it sounds really idyllic when I write about it or I tell people. I just thought it was normal. I thought that was like how everybody's lives were. You know,
Everyone's family's got a pastry shop.
Yeah, I could just like look out my bedroom and there was a pastry shop and my grandparents lived above the shop, like your front.
Yeah.
And I would go there before school and after school. And my mom worked front of the house. My uncles, my mom was the oldest of 8. So everybody, and that was, I think, how they made it work. It was kind of built in slave labor.
Yeah.
That's how my mom says it. And I just helped around. I never baked, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never baked there. Never was presented to me as an option. And I don't think I ever showed interest in it. I mean, I liked being there because it was where my family was, and I loved pastries. But I was encouraged to pursue higher education and just like become, it was like, you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, or something that was a little bit more.
That was the expectation.
Yeah, because baking was very blue collar and hard work. And so fast forward, when I was in college, I met an American boy, and then I graduated from university in Spain, and I moved to the U.S., and I got married and worked in corporate. I actually studied business and economics.
Did you really?
Yes.
I did
And
not
I have
know
a
that.
master's. Yeah.
You have a master's in economics.
Yeah, I am MBA, yeah.
Wow, that's
And
incredible.
I hardly worked in, maybe 2-3 years worked in corporate America, and then got laid off after September 11th, decided to go to culinary school, and I went to culinary school in Florida. And then that is what started kind of my journey into cooking and baking. The little throughway was that when I left Spain, I was very homesick. And so while I was in the States missing my family, and this is before like really the internet even. It was like, well, I mean, we had internet, but there was no FaceTime. There was nothing, like you called your family maybe like twice a week, you know? And so every time I called my mom, we would have conversations about baking, what they were doing in the pastry shop, what everybody was doing. And I just started baking after work. And that's when then I decided to actually pursue this as a career. So I grew up in it, but I didn't pursue it until I actually left home and left my family behind.
That's so interesting. And you said that it's not gluten-free there at all.
No, not at all.
So do they look at you, what you do? I have to say, Aran, you're gluten-free baking. You're like one of the top 3 gluten-free bakers in the world. Your stuff is absolutely like next level. I want to talk more about that. But so do they look at you and they're like, okay, she's family, but she's a little bit of a traitor?
No, I don't think they understood for a long time what I even did.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting how I think Americans are. I mean, I'm generalizing, of course, and I think things have changed. But I think Americans are a lot more about sharing. Like you teach somebody something, that you learn something. It's kind of like a very like there's reciprocity. I think in Europe, it was very close-minded. So like almost like, oh, you're going to copy, like you kept more secrets.
Interesting.
Like chefs wouldn't share. And so I think my family was like, what is she doing? Like what,
The fact that you were sharing so much was maybe the part that was more.
Yeah, or like they didn't ask me questions because, it sounds like I'm painting them as villains. No, not at all. But I think they didn't understand the mentality of like when you share something, you're actually learning a lot from other people yourself. Yeah. And so I think I've taught them that, sharing and, even being on social media or things like that they didn't even think about before.
Yeah.
How to expand. So that was one part of how I ended up blogging and sharing and all that stuff. But the other one was like the gluten-free part. And they're like, we have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
And they've done, they're still baking the same recipes that my grandfather did. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, I just turned I think it was the 75th anniversary this past year in 2024.
That's incredible. It's funny because I have never had to keep a gluten-free diet. My mom has on and off, and so like I really see the value in it. Your stuff, seeing your Instagram, I think was probably the first time that I was like, oh, I would just eat that. Like I don't, you know what I mean? I wouldn't even think about it that it was like that. And the thing that most impressed me were your artisan like rustic loaves.
Thank you.
How did you figure that out? Everyone needs to go and check them out and look at them. But like you have these dramatic ears where it tears. The crumb is really open. It's like it feels like magic.
Well, I wouldn't say they're dramatic ears. I don't always share when the ears are not dramatic. That's the magic of social media,
I think
too.
you just told us that you're a perfectionist. Is
I
what
am
you just said
very
right
much
there.
a perfectionist. I think most bakers are perfectionists,
Yeah.
actually. I've been gluten-free for 15 years. And so gluten-free pastry is sort of not that difficult if you have a pastry background. And I was familiar with buckwheat flour, millet, like I knew those grains. So when I had to go gluten-free, I kind of experimented, and it wasn't that difficult. Bread is a whole other beast.
Yeah.
And that's taken me a long time. I've probably been honing that skill for like the last 10 years. When I started, I had my first sourdough starter was probably from 2016. So the last 10 years I've been making bread.
Does it have a name? Does your sourdough sort of have a name?
I used to call it amachu, which in Basque means mommy.
Amachu. That's really cute. I like that.
But I don't really call
Not
it anything
anymore.
anymore. I have so many starters now because I've been working on a bread book that's coming out in September for the last 4 years. And so I have built like a lot of starters. Now that I'm done with it, it's going to be time that I have to kind of like, okay, I have to pick one or two because you can't maintain all of them.
What prompted you to get into bread back in 2015, 2016?
Necessity.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just missed it.
I think, and there weren't, there was commercial gluten-free bread that you could buy, but
It was pretty
if you
bad
read
back then.
ingredients, most of them have cellulose or they have some sort of, a lot of additives and things that you don't really want to consume every day. And I love bread. The truth is, I probably enjoy much more the process of creating recipes and the techniques and developing them for other people than I enjoy eating it. I think that happens with a lot of.
Yeah.
That must happen to you too, Lon. Like where you spend so much time creating something or honing something for other people, and you're just kind of like, okay, well,
Yeah, I think is the burden of the professional recipe developer. Like, you don't have the luxury of just making you want to eat, what your family wants to eat. Like, you have an audience you're serving, and you have to take the time to figure out what it is they want, understand why it is they want them, so that you can put forth your best product.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
yeah. But I enjoy eating my
Yeah.
bread. But what I mean is, I really like the process of making it.
Yeah.
Like just the physical nature of it all, just the
I love
feel of
shaping
it.
it.
Yeah.
I love thinking about it. Like, how can I perfect it? I love the smell of it. It's just like the whole process of making it.
Yeah.
It's really, really soothing to me. And I think a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so. Baking in particular.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know a ton about gluten-free baking. I have this experiment that I do kind of a lot over the years. I've done it like live on stage. I've done it for social media where I take a bread dough, like a glutinous bread dough, and I rinse it under water until all the starch is gone and I'm left with just gluten. So basically like seitan if you're used to vegetarian cooking. And then I take it and I let it rest like you would pizza dough for like a couple of days, and it relaxes. And then I take it and I have like a helium tank, and I can actually blow a balloon out of just gluten, and it blows people away. I mean, it blows nerds away. Like, let's be honest. If I'm on stage demoing this, like most people aren't clapping for it, but like the science nerds are, and the food science nerds. And I've also had another one where I take it and I put it in the microwave, just that, and it blows up into this like 100% gluten loaf of bread, or it looks like the skeleton of bread. It is this miraculous protein that does stuff that, in my mind, nothing else can do. So I'm curious, like, how did you crack the code, and what is it that makes gluten-free bread possible, the kind that you make?
Well, it's when I try to explain to people like what gluten is that's the analogy that I use. It's like a balloon, right? And
Truly a
so,
balloon, yeah.
So that's what you're doing with bread. It's like you're creating gases through fermentation, and then you're trying to capture them. And so you have to have kind of like some sort of elastic parachute to trap them. So if you don't have gluten, then you have to have some other binding ingredients. And so what I use is psyllium, combination of psyllium and flaxseed is what most people are using these days. I feel like maybe 10, 15 years ago, everybody was using xanthan gum, but we're kind of moving away from that because it's highly processed. So, we're using these finely milled seeds and things. Chia is also something else that gelatinizes, so you can use that as well.
It adds this like viscosity that like in collection with the starches can actually like hold on and form that balloon.
And they absorb a lot of water, unlike xanthan gum. So
right.
you can have highly hydrated doughs. You're not going to have, like these super open, like a focaccia is, that has a huge crumb. But yes, you can have more resemblance of traditional bread.
Yeah.
With it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can I float a hot take that might not be a hot take about Spanish food?
Yes.
Okay, so I love. I don't know Spanish food that well, but I love a lot of what I've tried, and tortilla and so many great dishes. It feels like most of it is like olive oil in different textures and shapes. Like, do you think that's like accurate? Like,
That's accurate.
The love for olive oil is so good, and they're like, how much can we pack into like the potatoes in here so that you get like a potato that tastes like olive oil? And over here with eggs, that like, is that a decent summation, or am I going to get like crucified in the comments?
Generous amounts of olive oil should be just like what you use. If you're writing a recipe, you should just say generous amount of olive oil for everything.
For everything.
I just remember when I was a kid, my grandmother used to just fill like a small pot with olive oil and take tomatoes from the garden and just throw the tomatoes and confit them like, it was like submerged in olive oil. And then, and if you use it, if you cook it, and if you have cooked it at a low temperature, you can still use it. I mean, I know that kind of goes against what a lot of people say about heating oils, but I grew up, the leftover oil from the tortilla was always used for dipping bread, or like you would drizzle it over something.
It's got more life to it, yeah.
Yeah, because it tastes like onion. And so yes, lots of olive oil. My parents never used any vegetable oil or anything that wasn't olive oil.
Well, it makes sense. I think there's a preciousness to extra virgin olive oil. I mean, it's expensive, obviously. And I think if you want like the exact pure flavor, yes, you don't want to heat it, but you come from a place where like that is the oil. And so like, of course, you're not going to throw it out. You're going to use it, and it might not be as like fresh, but now it tastes like onions. There's so many great uses for it.
And people, and I'm not like a expert taster of olive oil by any means, but there's different, like you said, there's different grades and different olives that are used. And my next sort of big thing that I want to do is go to Andalusia, which is in the south of Spain, and really learn about olive oil making. And it's actually very, like, I think in the last 3 years, they've had big droughts and maybe even viruses, or so, like a third of the crops have died. So
is that right?
That's why olive oil from Spain has been quite expensive.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I have family in Portugal, and so I'm always like, I've always loved Portuguese olive oil and stock that at home. But the Spanish stuff I've had is incredible too. It's just it's an amazing and really interesting, kind of like tea. Like it's all coming from the same sort of thing, but slightly different varieties, and the contrasts are really, really interesting. So you are here in Boston, not just for this podcast, in a much bigger way for our residency. I'm so excited that you signed on for a couple of years with us to develop recipes. I'm just hearing you and Lon talk, like there's so much connection around like how we think about recipes. I got to try one of your first recipes with us the other day. These really beautiful buckwheat pancakes with caramelized pears. Can you talk a little bit about that recipe?
Yeah. It's, first of all, I am so excited to be here. It has blown my mind to come here and see this whole logistical operation, honestly.
Yeah.
For the listeners, it's really well oiled. It's like run so well.
Well, thank you. We have an amazing staff. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, the pancakes. So in the pancakes, we grind buckwheat groats. We mix them with almond flour, and we separate the eggs. So we whip the whites to make the pancakes fluffy. Let's see, what else is good? It's maple. They're sweetened with maple syrup, so they're refined sugar-free. And then pears are grated into them too for extra moisture. And then pears are caramelized in maple syrup and butter. So I feel like it's. I'm trying for the recipe. My goal for the recipes that I'm trying for ATK is that they are kind of like wholesome. That's kind of my
Yeah.
goal. Delicious, but wholesome, gluten-free, but not too crunchy. Like, you know.
They so I had a bite. I'm not sure which version I tried, but they had just this like really delicately nutty aroma, just like a little bit of texture from the groats, and those pears had like just enough acidity to balance the sweetness. It was just so good.
Thank you.
So good. They're a must try, and I love. I don't know if it's the starches you're using or the almond in there, but like the edges get really crispy. So I think there's like 2 ways to do pancakes. You can like cook them in like almost no fat and get that like diner style like perfect bronze color on the top that looks really great, but is very soft. Or lots of butter and get them super crispy. But these got much crispier than I think a traditional pancake, and I loved it. Like that contrasted with the soft fruit. It was really, really good. That recipe is up on americastestkitchen.com and in the America's Test Kitchen app. It's a must try. So good.
Thank you.
Okay, so for a third segment in each show, we like to do something a little bit different, a little fun. Sometimes it's quizzes, sometimes it's lightning round. Today, I have no idea what it is because Lon brought something. What is this?
I'm taking over. I was at another tasting today, and it was pas de fruits. And so I thought maybe you guys would want to guess what Andrea is putting together. These are not final recipes. This is just where she's at right now. This recipe is slated for our November, December issue, I think.
Okay, so this is a Cook's Illustrated recipe and process for the November, December issue by Andrea Geary, who's an amazing recipe developer. And then what we have in front of us, I mean, it's a beautiful little plate, and but it's like little objects.
Yeah.
There's like a yellow rectangle. There's a gorgeous pyramid that is kind of a little golden. There's a really cool looking orange triangle. These look really gorgeous.
Yeah,
All right, so our job is to try them and see
I would say pick one, describe what it looks like, have a taste, and guess. I actually know what the answers are, so I'm not going to
Well, you better. I don't want to just guess without having an answer. All right,
Okay.
Aaron, you got to go first. You get to choose which one you want to
Okay,
try.
I'm going to go with a little pyramid.
All right, so she's picking the, I don't know, apricot-colored pyramid.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like orangey. It has flecks.
All right, I'm going to go for this perfect little cube that is like inky plum sort of color.
Yeah, and I'm going with this apricot-looking triangle. It's very sparkly.
you already know what they are.
I want to eat it. It's my fave.
Okay, well, if Lon gets it right, it doesn't impact things, okay? Only Aaron and I are competing. Not that we're
Okay.
competing,
We're
but,
competing.
but we are.
Not that you're competing.
But we
I
are.
love pate free, by the way.
Do you want me to describe mine while you guys
No,
think?
Lon, we're
No.
trying to figure this out.
Oh, okay.
First of all, it's delicious.
Some of them, she's like, I don't like this. I feel like it needs more of this. So
Could this be mango with, it has like a limey, like tagine.
yes.
Yes.
Ding, winner.
I'm really happy for you, Aaron. It sounds like you nailed it.
You want to try another one? You can eat one of the other ones.
No, I want to figure mine out.
Yours is a little tricky. You did pick the trickiest one.
I did?
Yeah. That's your clue.
I mean, so first of all, mine is also delicious. It is fruity. It is jammy. Honestly, it's giving me like generic berry flavor. It's like red berries. I'm in like the blackberry, raspberry sort of world.
yeah.
Yeah?
No. Well, no. but
Wait, why did you lead me on with this? Lon's got this big smile, this encouraging smile. I'm getting it. I'm feeling good. And she's like, smile. No.
no, I'm so proud of you because all those words you gave describe port. And that is a port one, which is why I said you got the tricky one.
Okay.
Not actually fruit.
All right. I don't feel too bad. Yeah.
You
Okay.
did great.
I wish I could taste that one. I'm curious now.
I'm sorry I did it all. It was really good.
was
Okay, so
really good.
port. So
Yeah.
what one do you have?
I've got grapefruit Campari.
Oh, nice.
That's like a perfect cocktail right there.
It's citrusy, bitter, sweet, tart. I love it.
Wow, that is so good.
If you guys want to know, that one's pineapple habanero and raspberry.
Wow. Little jewels that you can eat. They're really, really good.
Yeah, they're lovely, aren't they?
Yes, so lovely.
Lon, thank you for the snacks. I was totally unexpected. I love a little competition. We should do that more on the show.
I'll sneak snacks on anytime.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for doing the pod. This was absolutely wonderful. Now, you have 3 cookbooks out, but you have a new book coming out this September, is The Art of Gluten-Free Bread.
Correct.
This feels like the pinnacle one, right? This is like the hardest sort of subject that you've tackled.
Yeah, I feel like I've been going, kind of climbing a mountain, and I finally did it, and it's coming out, and I'm excited for everybody to bake from it.
Well, we'll definitely keep our eye out for that book. I can't wait to get my hands on it. You can also find Aran's recipe for those buckwheat pancakes and a beautiful soup that she made on americastestkitchen.com and the America's Test Kitchen app. Thanks, Aran.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Len.
Thank you.